It appears to me, at least in the second term, the Bharatiya Janata Party tried to set right a few things. 370 had to go. It was high time. And the CAA, a very minor thing of 31,000 people being normalized, has been taken and blown out of proportions. And we are seeing the reverberations of that even in the United States. And I'm afraid with a democratic dispensation at the presidential level, we might see the same thing come up. The rumor that was doing the rounds was 52 Democratic-run city councils were going to pass an anti-CAA resolution. 7 did. And the other 45 dialed it back because websites like mine, and we made a lot of noise. They said, look, you are perpetuating a lie. You are just copy pasting one resolution, one document given by CAIR. And this is the Council of American Islamic Relations. Everybody was just copy pasting that and passing the resolution. Said, you are not even applying your mind. All you're thinking is that this doesn't apply to me, my country, my city, my state. It is just something in India, and these guys want me to do it. They are giving me money for that. Yes, it's okay. We'll vote for it. So this kind of nonsense prevailed. So now the one thing that I find the Indian government not doing is, whenever something like this happens and it comes to the attention of the consulates or something like that, they tend to ignore it. I don't know why they have to ignore it. They should be writing to these councils. They should be actually putting the position of the government, and they don't do that. And on my own initiative, I did this thing that time. I actually got a lawmaker. I got an India's governor. I got an India's legal department person to come and explain the CAA, and only then at least some of this thing has died down. My question to you, sir, is my Janma Bhumi is India, my Karma Bhumi is America, and I want the best for both worlds. And I'm doing the best I can to try and bridge these things. At the same time, ek haath se taali bajti nahi. We need both hands to clap. And I'm just hoping through this video that there are real problems and there are people who are really wanting to help. And I hope the consulates and others, when they are brought to the attention, when it is brought to their attention, that they can help out. And this should not be going unchallenged. You can't just ignore these kinds of things. Same things happen in the United Kingdom also. So it's not something that, it's localized to only US. This is a planned strategy to try and create some sort of Islamophobia about Indian government in power right now. And then this is succeed because the Indian government doesn't push back with facts. So I'm just hoping that with this kind of a eye-opening discussion or talk that we had, that people have to see that the situation is a lot more serious than it is made out to be. And yesterday or day before yesterday, Uttar Pradesh passed an ordinance against love jihad. So it is not a fiction. It's not it's not a matter of an imagination coming from one or two officers. Now this has become real. Now, the law can only go so far. India doesn't have enough boots on the ground. I mean, like police, to implement the laws that are already in place. And yet the politicians are hesitant to add quality police forces.
Excuse me.
Why isn't the government looking at something equivalent to the National Guard in the US, which is those people who have served in the armed forces, like a sepoy retires at the age of 35. I mean, he's probably more brisk. He can probably run faster than a policeman at the age of 35. So why isn't the Indian government looking at forming something similar to a National Guard? Sorry for a long question.
No, not at all. Not at all. This also gives me an opportunity to spell out my perspective. I would say that whatever is the reaction to CAA or 370 is there, I had anticipated the moment it happened. I would say the financial angle, because a country can have $3 trillion as GDP, but when we are talking about covert war and these networks, they have very easy money to spend. They can dispense this money. And this is when I say self-sustaining, more money you invest, more money you can generate. More support structure you are able to create, more recruitment you are able to have, and not only terrorism. Terrorism is a smaller component of larger covert war and larger sense of influence that you wield. So this was not expected, but I still believe, I was not speaking earlier, I believe that both CA and 370 we have not handled smartly. We needed to do it. The fact is that I believe that a lot of things, when you are talking about geopolitics, you have to be alert. What is going to be consequences. You have to devise an instrument which does not hurt your friends, which does not unify your adversaries. What have we done? We have not only unified our adversaries, we have thrown people in their system. Imagine, I have also written a concept paper on how to fight insurgency, and let me tell you, this paper I have not written out of my hat. I have some deeper understanding, and at very senior level, people have said these ideas I have mentioned. It is not entire paper. I'm holding on to that work also, a bit of my research work. I'm holding on to it. So this is certainly not a smart way of doing it, because by CA, NRC, we have antagonized Sheikh Hasina. This does, you have to do it, but you do it in such a manner, even if you're doing things right, when you are in democracy, you have to do it in a manner that right thing is done in the right manner. Both are right things, but not done in a right manner. And I would say that institutions do not have capacity to carry out the vision or the integrity or the commitment Prime Minister of India has displayed on issue of nationalism or issue of Indianism. So I would stop at this, because even in this thing, subjecting people, let me tell you one example, which is not there in media, but I'm telling it on the basis of my understanding, and it was 100% local initiative. In Nagaland, in 1990s, people used to say that not a single Naga wanted to live with India. And they used to call, oh, you've come from India. So that was the attitude. And somehow, situation happened, that one of the local leaders, former deputy chief minister and former speaker, he somehow, what detail I wouldn't go, and it was certainly not state sponsored, because this gentleman was like a father figure for me. His wife used to say, you don't address me madam, you call me mummy. That was the level of person. So I know it for sure. It was certainly not state sponsored. He genuinely felt, and he took an initiative. He got all ex-MLAs of that state and all ex-MPs of that state, and he organized something in a hotel called Jaffa Hotel and passed a resolution that Nagas cannot live independently. We have to live with India. Indian government has done so much. There is internal corruption in Nagaland, and that is why we are having problem. And these underground groups, they don't deserve any sympathy. They are taking away whatever money is being given by people of India. So whatever people of mainland India have given money for Nagas, that money is going to underground. And once someone of that caliber came up, the state government also probably supported. And, previous election was boycotted by NSCNI at the call of NSCNI. Except for Congress party, no other party had fielded candidate. And immediately after that election, 80% people or so participated in voting. So what I'm trying to say, and one thing I forgot to mention about this gentleman, that his father had also protested against Naga separatist. His name was Kebi Kedsu. His father had also protested against this Naga separatism, and people had killed him and thrown him somewhere else. So his commitment to India was not because of any government agency or anything as such. His commitment to India was his own, and still he was a popular leader. So what I'm trying to say, that in 370 or case like this, there are very large number of people in Kashmir. None of them want to go with Pakistan. Fact is that 90% of people, given a chance, they want to be with India. But we should have been smart enough to avoid something like a lockdown, because the moment you have lockdown, this will give propaganda points for propaganda to our adversary. So this we have not handled smartly. We have to acknowledge, even CA, etc. I would believe, why should India get all Hindus and minorities here? We have to be good to all minorities anywhere in the world, and particularly in this region. Shias, for example, Shias are called in Pakistan, or Ahmadiyas are called in Pakistan as biggest kafirs. I'm not saying that we should give them citizenship, but our objective should be temporarily you live here in India, but you go back to that country, because as long as these countries, these communities are there in Pakistan, in other countries, that will give us a strategic strength. So this is what I say. India has been suffering from strategic myopia for centuries. This is the thing. Political expediency, political convenience, domestic this thing should not override your national security considerations. If there are allegations that hardline Islamist rabid party called Muslim something of Hyderabad, they should have no truck with this thing. We need to, I'm not saying that, mainstream parties should lose. I have criticized, this humorous gentleman who is now in jail. I don't know whether he deserves to call a gentleman or not. His party is more like a privately controlled syndicate. You address these issues, but when you talk about national security is not about fighting terrorism. National security is not fighting wars only. Every policy which comes up should be handled in a manner that generates minimum conflict for you, that has minimum cost for you. You're talking about consulates. Why does consulate ignore? Let me tell you 2-3 things. I know a lot of things I wouldn't like to share on this platform. I hope one day Prime Minister of India invites me, Honorable Prime Minister of India invites me. He had done so 7 years back, and I'm able to share some of my perspective. India's bureaucracy can never perform at an optimum level despite having so many brilliant people. If you compare, some of the brightest within Indian bureaucracy and brightest in bureaucracy anywhere in the world, I would say that India would be having an advantage. Some of the brightest people are there in Indian bureaucracy, but our structures are flawed. You paratroop at a high level, you develop a degree of entitlement, you don't have to perform, you don't have to do anything, you don't have to build any skill, and you go ahead. Building or countering something with facts requires 2 things. You require skill at one level, requires commitment at second level, requires appropriate incentives. Is there any incentive for high quality performance and bureaucracy anywhere? No. Here also these corruption cartels have come up. I wouldn't like to say some of the bureaucrats, some of the station house officers, the kind of investments they are having. I don't know, they may be having some properties even in your city. Not all, but a small percentage, this malignant plot. And they are having good truck with politicians, they are having good truck with everywhere. And these people would not have any interest. I'm not saying that this kind of syndicate would be there to stall, India's response. I would say largely they don't have incentive, largely they don't have orientation or training, they don't have skill, and we need to do something about it. And I would say covert war cannot be fought by, only security and police forces. You said that why it's not happening, why India is not guarding it. Yes, very brilliant. At 35 also, I'm sure a defense forces man is fitter and stronger. This is very much a possibility, and it is happening also in many paramilitary forces. These things are going also. But I would say we have to restructure our entire policing and criminal justice system. And this is one problem that even though our Prime Minister has intent, he has vision, he wants to do it, but nitty-gritty and details he cannot work out. And then people around him, I'm not casting any aspersion on their integrity, but anyone who has risen in this system to the top and not had issues. I had issues. I was all my life, all my letters, I've been protesting that this is not appropriate, this is not done, and paid a price also, paid a heavy price for that. And I continue to pay. I don't think any price is too high for your country. If you are really committed, you have to pay a price. You should be willing to face consequences. But anyone who has risen in the system, there is no way he wouldn't have anything, his cupboard would be clean. So this kind of advisors, this kind of systems, which unfortunately Prime Minister has been slapped with, or Prime Minister, it has been imposed upon him, I doubt that, many of the right things can be done. We are fighting this thing tactically very well because of his energy and maybe a small team around him who's there. So we are fighting this thing very well. But I have my apprehensions. There are people around who are trying to sabotage his vision as well. They managed to do it very well in the previous thing and quite substantially well even in this. So I believe that objective behind 370, objective behind CAA, objective behind this thing was brilliant, but it was not done in the manner it should have been done. And regarding consulates, etc., I suppose whole bureaucracy has to be restructured at a strategic level, but at tactical level, there should have been something that, look, this is going to happen, manage the fallout. It has not happened.
Thank you very much, Jitendra ji. This is a very eye-opening conversation, and we will hear a lot of comments about this, and I'll be sure to pass them along to you when and as I get them. But there is much food for thought. I think I just wanted to give a 2-minute takeaway.
Please.
Think that I'm an average Indian citizen. what role can I do beyond what I'm already doing? We love to, do the 280 character tweet or Facebook, and then we outrage there. But beyond that, people need to do something more to try and help this country, this prime minister who's well meaning. What can an average Indian do today to try and orient everybody that this is the identity? Every one of us is this first and this. Where would they start?
In my 2011 paper, I wrote, I gave its copy to Sri Pranab Mukherjee ji, whom I had known in personal capacity on 26 July 2012. This is very second day after he had taken oaths, and that time things were not clear. So what I'm trying to say, from age of 3 or 4, Shriji, I have been driven by this sense of patriotism. In my whole life, I have never ever paid a penny of bribe to anyone, fought with people, done this thing. And in my whole life, I have never ever taken any underhand favor for myself from anyone. This was a kind of madness. A lot of people think I am a mad person, I am an insane person. The reason was that moment I do something, I lose my moral this thing. And in 26 years of civil service, I have become substantially poorer because everybody has addition my this thing. So what I'm trying to say, the commitment. And one of the paper I mentioned to you, paper I have talked about a national vision. We have to have a national vision. What is a core this thing which should guide every individual, every government, every state? That vision has to be there. And what you're saying, what an average Indian should do. I had said in many this thing that most critical ingredient of national security is what? Character of people in leadership level roles, character and integrity of people in leadership level roles, and physical health and skills of population. These two things are needed. I'm not saying that population should not have character and integrity, but if people in leadership level roles are not having character and integrity, masses are bound to sway. This is what I would like to say. And then character and integrity should not be, many of my lectures I have said, it should not be like a beautiful piece of painting which is hung on in your drawing room where you have to come and just clean it. It should be something you are able to live in part of your day-to-day life. So my ideas are much beyond. Security is one area. I have started from security and I've been there not now. I would say from the age of 3 or 4, I have been talking about, rather ever since I heard the stories of freedom fighters in my own family and around. From that time onwards, from the stories of Mangal Pandey to Bhagat Singh to Khudiram Bose to all these things, these stories were told to us when we were growing up, and this has a strong impact, maybe positive or negative, I don't know. It makes people a practical person, but what you are saying makes a lot of sense. What you're doing is a great work, but we can do much more. And even if we bring people together, bring certain ideas, bring certain awareness, it will be some substantive thing, but we can certainly go beyond that. I would say focus has to be every citizen. What should they do? First of all, they should look after their health, both physical and mental health. Secondly, integrity I'm talking about. Thirdly, I'm talking about skill. And moment you find like-minded this thing, moment you find in this thing, how can you support? Not as a charity. I'm also saying, population of India, such an unhealthy population we are having. 40% of our children are having stunted growth. Their cognitive capacities are poor. The whole world has managed to, not whole world, at least some powerful countries have managed to come out with vaccine, and we are still struggling. Maybe we may not need, but we have some of the most brilliant pool of human resources. We need to nurture those resources. We need to foster collaboration, and we need to, as you said, we need to build these things. How to go about it? There were multiple ways of it, and I'm sure I'm very delighted to come across someone like you, and I hope we continue with this engagement and rather spread some of these ideas, share some of our views, learn from each other, and then enhance the circle. I thought, after losing, rather coming out of government service, I wanted to leave it in 2011 and 12. There would be something about me in media also. You can go through that. I would like to speak on this. I wanted to get out and start something like this, but there was a conspiracy. The whole thing was sabotaged. There was effort to discredit me, and that effort has been exposed. I was an alumnus of National Defense College also, and there also I had done extremely well. So a particular rule which was applied to me through a criminal forgery, that has been exposed. But I suppose moment you start doing something, you are in a safer location, you are in a better location, you will certainly be strong. But moment you start doing something, there will be prizes. And what I feel we can do together, at least at our level, we can come together, we can promote these ideas, because ultimately, you know, we have to care for our Muslim population because they're part of us. 99% of them have converted to it. Even Babar Akbar, they were not rich people. They were our hardy people. Many of these, Afghanistan was part of India. You know, so they are our people. We have to destroy the element of radicalism which is there, and that is needed not as an act of charity, but that is critical for stability and security of whole world. So people like me and you, we can promote some kind of indocracy as a vision which is not there just for talking about. This is something we should be able to live. This is something which our governance structures should be able to promote and protect. I always believe there are two kind of relationship between state and society. State is the protector, but society must thrive. Society must have some degree of dissidence also, because from dissidence only there is progress and there is advancement. We were far more advanced than Greece and Rome, because our history is not known. Even 7th century BC, there were 200 movements which are going on in India. So India is not known to the world at all. So this is time, not that we have to ape West, we have to copy West. We have to discover our own strength. We have to get the best from scientific advancement, the thinking of enlightenment which West has provided. And I think future and the world needs some degree of indocracy, where Indian values, some of the ancient Indian wisdom, is how can we merge it with scientific advancement of the West and the brilliant thing which is happening even now in the United States, despite having certain negative, certain difficult things in that country. You have to really, congratulate so-called architects of this country, despite they were also slave owners, but still a statesman like Abraham Lincoln it produced. So what I'm trying to say, I'm sorry I have taken this thing, to spell out a lot of things which you didn't even ask, just so that, it reaches more people. But what I'm trying to say, that we have to create our own national vision and a global vision. And this vision should not be, trying to ape West Asian civilization, or trying to replicate or counter-react to Pakistan or someone, because India is far bigger. India means whole of Indo-Asia had exceptional vision, exceptional governance system. And that is why Asia was way ahead of this thing. And China was a very minor civilization of rustic people. When Buddhism went to China, the Song dynasty, Tang dynasty, they started advancing. We had learned use of iron at least 2,000 years before Chinese, 1,600 years before Chinese. So, I'm not saying that we have to derive our pride in this manner. We have to see what values, what structures give us strength, how these are relevant. And of course, the advancement which West has made, we have to take it. And certain strength which China has, we cannot ignore it. Some of their governance, bureaucratic and other structures. And we have to devise, I would say, a national vision and a global vision. And I'm sure intellectuals and people with integrity and vision, both like you can play a very good role. And I would love to partner you in that.
Thank you very much. That was a very informative and thought-provoking conversation. And I think, like I said, this is a lot of food for thought. And once again, Jitendra ji, thank you so much for coming on our Hangout. And I'm 100% confident that we're going to have many more such thought-provoking conversations on various topics. And once again, namaskar and thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.